well, you're on chemo, you don't have any other options.
Yeah.
And then those guys don't find about something else that might help them. We've had tons of guys in the group who had that first opinion saying there's nothing that could be done, who are now NED because they switched up things and went to somewhere else. So
yeah, no, it's individualized care now, right? Because everyone's getting gene profiles, the biomarkers like you talked about, and then you're trying to select the best therapy for whatever their profile is. You know,
man.
And if it's a trial, I mean, sometimes it is an upfront trial that's worthwhile, but a lot of the time, first line therapy, there's not going to be a trial. It's usually subsequent lines are going to be more beneficial to get on a trial, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But there may be something like, where some doctors maybe even aren't necessarily looking for like MSI high up front, or maybe they're testing for that later, or maybe the gene profiling is coming later, and then they're doing frontline when things are switching on that. So it's like, but I hear you, and I just thank you guys for doing what you do. It is not an easy job, and we want to help support you. So if there's anything that you can think of with our group, we're getting, we're going to be over 2,000 people, and it's growing pretty fast. If there's anything that I can do to help you guys, or any topics or something that I can do on my podcast where we can, be this bridge. Like, I never want it to feel like it's patients versus providers. Like, we want to work together as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's topics that you think your community would want us to talk on, either on your podcast, our podcast, whatever, I think we're open to collaborate. And I think Danny and I can break things down usually at a pretty patient level, and not keep it too high-minded.
Right.
I know. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I do too much high-minded too. It's like, because with my journalism, like, I was researching so much that it was really unhealthy for me. And I think I found a balance now where I'll like read some papers and just read and like see what's coming out of ASCO GI and stuff. But then most of the time I just do my thing, and like my team at Mass General, and I also consult with Johns Hopkins, because I did a trial at Johns Hopkins. I failed spectacularly. One of my abdominal tumors went from like 6 centimeters to 14 on trial. So that didn't work for me, but like you got to balance trying to figure out how to get yourself out of this and knowing like that I'm not an oncologist. Like, there's only limits to what I can learn. So I'm trying to like ease back on that and just trust the professionals, like, but also be empowered so that I can have those conversations, be like, hey, did you see this trial over here where they're doing gut microbiome stuff for like people who aren't responding on immunotherapy? Like, is that something that we could look at? And they'll be like, oh, I'll take a look. Right. Mm-hmm. And I love it when the oncologist will, because you guys must get sick of people that just Google and come in and be like, well, I can take this Himalayan beetroot and I'm cured. Right. It's like, but for a patient that like really wants to look at things and ask those questions, I love it. Like Dr. Cusack and Clark at Mass General, they're always like, what have you been reading? Like, have you been hearing about anything? And like, so it's cool that they see me as like a collaborator rather than just like, oh no, like just do this.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. I mean, we talk about it all the time on this podcast. Doctors are really bad anyway at interpreting medical literature as it is. So, I think we're usually
who is it?
So it's not just the layperson or the journalist. It's the doctors too. I mean, I think there's a lot of barriers to synthesizing appropriately.
I think the best thing you're doing for yourself is getting those multiple opinions. You're not stressing yourself to saying, I just have to travel 2 hours for my treatment every day, right? You're getting local treatment, but having those avenues at bigger centers, because that just opens up the opportunity to get on newer therapies or trials that just aren't available through your local center,
Absolutely. And they've had different opinions. So like at one point, Mass General had one opinion, my local guy had another opinion, Johns Hopkins had another, and it's like kind of triangulate. It's like, and then finally it was like 2 out of the 3 agreed, and I was like, okay, let's go with that. But it's like, that second opinion, that's a big part of my book, is just really encouraging people to just get that second opinion. No oncologist is going to be offended if you say like, hey, let's have this other eyes on it. Like that just puts you in a stronger position, because if those other eyes just say, usually what they'll be like, yep, Dr. Evans, we totally agree with that. But sometimes they'll be like, hey, have you thought about this? And then they'll talk. So I think that collaboration is really key. And I'm really happy that Dr. Evans here in Maine from the beginning was like, if you want to talk to anyone, like you can go around the country. Like if there's anyone you want to consult with, let's get a message out to them and share your case.
Right.
So that was really good. And plus I have the insurance, right? Like, so having good insurance that will support that.
Huge.
That's a whole, like 4 other shows, right?
It's a deep dive. We don't want to go down right now. My blood pressure's already high enough at the end of the day.
I know. Let's keep it down. But thank you guys.
I
would love to. I'm already thinking of like 2 or 3 different things that I'd love to next year when I get to. So I have 68 episodes of the podcast, but I put it on hold to get my book done. But then it's done now, but I'm just launching it. So in January, I'm going to get the podcast up and running, and I'd love to have you guys on and we should think about like what that first topic might be and just kind of keep it fun and basic. But for the guys to hear from practicing oncologists, like at the level where you guys are at, that would be really cool. So thank you for being willing to do that. And
any day, we'd be excited to join.
We really appreciate all you do for the community. So it's the least we could do. So no, we appreciate it.
Love it. Thanks for doing this. Last thing, how did you guys come up with the idea? Like, which one of you was like, oh yeah, we should talk about this?
The
podcast in general, I got shoehorned in.
Well, I think once the pandemic hit, wasn't it? When the pandemic hit, we were just like,
was that pandemic motivated?
We kind of were looking for different marketing avenues and stuff, and we're not even. I don't even think we're using this big in marketing. It's just kind of getting our voices out there to where if our patients want to listen and have just a casual conversation about different topics that we can give them our points of view outside of the clinic. That's kind of where we're coming from, and we do have some patients that listen regularly, so so it's good. So
I said I was good at running my mouth, so I was volunteered for it, which and I took I guess offense to now.
And we like talking sports too, so we talk golf, basketball. Rick talks football. I'm not a football expert, but
All right. Hey, well, have me back on sometime next year, maybe, and we can do a little sports piece too, because I'm a huge, up in Maine, you're born into the Celtics, Red Sox, Bruins, and Patriots.
No.
I know.
Brenda loves that.
We have enough Boston. Our producer is a Boston person too.
Okay, but can we all agree on our hatred for Tom Brady at this point? Because I can. Yes.
Sure.
This is the producer, yes.
Are you happy he's in this like, turmoil he's in right now?
I don't want to see his personal life.
No, not his personal. Sad. No, That's sad. It is affecting his. Well, I don't know. The team's not that good. That team's not good. So
I can sports hate people, but I don't want them to be personally hurt. That's just.
Well, no, they're not personally hurt. The thing is with guys like Michael Jordan and Tom Brady is. Their lover is their sport, right? Like you could have, you're married to a supermodel, but who's number one? This little football that Tom sleeps with at night.
That's true.
His head.
That he deflates at night? Is that what you mean?
All right, we don't need to go there.
It was a good conversation. We're getting off now.
Nice, Danny.
Thank you.
There we go.
Faith, exactly.
Every once in a while.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Trevor. Take care.
Thanks, Trevor.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, bye.